Compromise is bad. At least if you're going against your principles, it's bad. With all the health craze about, even McDonald's and Wendy's have succumbed to the pressure by providing healthy alternatives to their usual menu of fat. Even potato chip manufacturers are getting into the act. I mean, multi-grain potato chips? Are you shitting me, Pringles? But not KFC. No, KFC has stood its ground and proclaimed that chubby children are cute, and hence the KFC Double Down Sandwich. For those unaware of this devilishly delicious bunless concoction, it's 2 pieces of bacon, 2 slices of cheese, and Colonel sauce sandwiched in between 2 chicken patties. Now, just like Pringles' multigrain garbage isn't actually healthy for you, the Double Down Sandwich is actually not that unhealthy for you, at least compared to the bunned burgers. It may actually be a viable, healthier alternative to the Big Mac. After all, with all the buns gone, you don't have to consume all them carbs. But the outrage from the soccer moms was inevitable. Despite the absence of buns, it is, after all, a bona fide heart attack-inducing grease demon. But the outrage has failed. KFC had originally only planned on making the Double Down available for a limited time, but because fat people everywhere love the darn thing so much, KFC decided to continue the product. A tale of triumph and an inspiration to anyone facing enormous pressure to cave in on their principles and compromise. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Conviction is not such a tale, and the reason for this is Ubisoft's incessant need to make games more and more accessible. While the first Splinter Cell games were uncompromising and hard-nosed in their approach to stealth, meaning you had to pretty much lurk in the shadows and wait for opportune times to strike or slink past, Conviction is about killing everyone around you. It's not necessarily a criticism, it just points to a difference in philosophy. And the story kind of justifies this change. Sam Fisher is back, but this time around he's hopping mad. Something about his creepy looking daughter from Monsters Inc. He's out for blood, and it's evident in the way he takes down enemies and in his interrogation techniques. It's all very violent. He's like a roided out Jack Bauer. But I'm not interested in talking about the story. If you've ever watched TV shows and movies in the past, you'll see every twist and turn coming a mile away. The story is pretty standard fare. No, what I want to talk about is the impact the new philosophy to the series has on gameplay. Conviction does feature stealth. After all, it's not Splinter Cell if there's no stealth. But it's a cover and shadows hybrid that works a little too efficiently and saps a lot of attention that its predecessors have painstakingly instituted. You can easily stick and unstick from cover. Moving from cover to cover unseen is a cinch. And if there are shadows or if the room is dark, you can pretty much move about undetected. But everything is just a bit too easy. There are 2 basic gameplay mechanics that drive a game: mark and execute, and last known position. The mark and execute gameplay allows players to mark enemies by pointing at them and pressing Q, and the number of enemies you can mark depends on the gun you're carrying. The better the gun, the more enemies you can mark. And when you take down an enemy with a hand-to-hand maneuver, you can press E and Sam Fisher will take them all out as long as the marked enemies are in your line of sight. The mark and execute's biggest flaw, besides being entirely nonsensical, is that it makes the game way too easy, especially once you get your hands on a handgun that can mark up to 4 enemies. Let's say there are 5 enemies, and I've never seen more than 6 in a single encounter. You can mark 4 of them by pressing Q on them, sneak up on the unmarked one, take them down by pressing C, then press E to take down the rest. It's just way too easy, and that's basically 80% of the game. And then there's the last known location gameplay. If an enemy spots you and you hide behind cover thereafter, the game will mark the location in which the enemy last saw you, and they'll investigate that area. That's pretty stupid. I just don't buy that anyone, even someone like Sam Fisher, can move around behind cover after being spotted without the enemies at least sensing that he moved. And second, even if you can't sense him moving about, shouldn't you anticipate that he may have moved? This does provide the player with some interesting gameplay options, like placing a remote control bomb in the last known location area, moving away, waiting for the enemy to get there, and then blowing him to smithereens. But it's really stupid that the enemies are so fixated on that area. And this stupidity is transparent throughout. For instance, it's just a bit too easy to take down enemies while hanging from a windowsill. If you pull one guy out of a window, the rest will come to investigate. All you need to do is move away from that window, hang around while the enemies haplessly shoot out the window, and carefully creep back as they stand about stupidly near the window and repeat the process. You would think that someone hanging on the windowsill would be a sitting duck, that it would be the worst possible position to be in when spotted by enemies, but no, it's actually the single most advantageous position in this game. And not only can you take down 5 enemies by hanging on windowsills, you can pretty much find a location whenever and wherever you encounter enemies that will make you near invincible. The game is designed to make Sam Fisher's life easy. I mean, I've never seen so many damn pipes in my life. After playing the game, I started looking around whenever I was in a new location to see if there were indeed that many pipes to be found in real life. At home, at work, in the streets, while shopping, in bars. Let me tell you, Sam Fisher must be the luckiest man ever. Because it seems whenever he encounters enemies, there are tons of pipes around. When I look around, the only places that seem to have scalable walls and lots of pipes is Costco and Walmart. And this game doesn't take place in either. All the levels are designed in a way as to provide the player with one option that's far superior to all the others. Climb the pipe, mark enemies, drop on one guy, take out the rest. Climb out the window, mark all of them, pull one guy out of a window, take out the rest. And so on. Yeah, you could go in guns a-blazing or try to sneak by everyone instead of using the mark and execute and last known position gameplay mechanics. But why would you when you could just take the easier route? And that's the other thing about the game, the gunplay sucks. There's even a level that seems designed specifically to show how much the gunplay sucks. Sam Fisher's in Iraq, and for whatever reason you can't stealth in Iraq. You just can't, you're not allowed to or something. Ubisoft specifically took out the stealth options in this section so that the only option that's available to you is to pull out your gun and kill everyone. And let me tell you, if they put in this level to demonstrate how shitty the gunplay is, they've succeeded. For one, guns just don't feel or sound right. Moreover, the enemies don't seem to enjoy laying suppressing fire, and the gunplay pretty much consists of long distance target practice and waiting for enemies to advance and come out into the open when they really shouldn't be advancing. Sam Fisher is just a lucky guy, I guess. Stupid enemies everywhere, and everywhere he goes it's Walmart and Costco. Not only is Sam Fisher lucky, he's omniscient. He's always aware of where everyone is and which direction they're facing. Third-person stealth in which enemies can predict where you are even after they spotted you just because you're crouched behind some crates, while you can see them in plain view, is bullshit. Ubisoft even provides you with a handy warning whenever you're in the enemy's line of sight but haven't been spotted yet, and lets you know immediately whenever you are spotted. And that's on top of letting you know when you're completely hidden by having the colors faded in these moments. Maybe Ubisoft thought you were really dumb. Oh look, the enemies seem suddenly alarmed and are shooting at me. I wonder if I've been spotted. No, there's no way you could possibly figure that out on your own. Or maybe it's because the color fading when you're hidden in the shadows thing doesn't work that well in this game. Just look at this scene. I'm in a room with no one else in the room. All doors are closed. No one can possibly see me, but the colors haven't faded. And here I'm in plain view of this guy, right in front of him in fact, and the colors are faded. And then there are just boring ass moments, like one mission in which you're using pre-installed cameras to spy on 2 people conversing, or when you're interrogating someone. These moments are boring because there's so little player input and the scenes in themselves aren't interesting to watch. Interrogation sounds like fun, eh? Well, it's not in this game. You have this guy by the throat. You move him to a nearby object like a wall or sink or television screen, and you press C and watch Sam Fisher bash his head in and question him afterwards. It's always the same too. The guy refuses to answer Sam, you press C and Sam beats the guy up, and then the guy talks. The interrogation thing may have been fun to do if the guy's response depended on how you question him and what tools you use to bash his skull in, but no, as it is, it's boring as shit. Now, despite all these flaws, the game is at times fun to play, especially if you're willing to overlook all the nonsensical elements and just play the damn game. For one thing, the game mixes things up pretty nicely. There's a variety of scenarios the game places you in, and it makes the game kind of fun to play in a way that puzzle games are fun to play. You try to figure out what's the best way to take down everyone around you. Interestingly enough, the best part of a game, at least for me, is when the option to go guns a-blazing is taken away from you. There's one scenario when you're forced to stealth your way around because if you're spotted, the whole building goes into lockdown and you can't reach your objective that happens. And watching your enemies and predicting their movements and sneaking around them and taking them down quietly is a lot of fun. And that's what the old Splinter Cell games were all about. It made me think, Ubisoft made all these compromises and tried really hard to make the game more accessible, presumably to make the game enjoyable to more people. But the best part of a game turns out to be the one section that most closely resembles the original game. How ironic.
Trying to get inside the perimeter will be shot. As a looter my orders.